Welcome to Soft Hour Library. Tonight's story begins now. Close your eyes and rest.
Chapter 10. Bundle visits Scotland Yard. Now it may be said at once that in the foregoing conversation, each one of the three participants had, as it were, held something in reserve. That nobody tells everything is a very true motto. It may be questioned, for instance, if Lauren Wade was perfectly sincere in her account of the motives which had led her to seek out Jimmy the Siger. In the same way, Jimmy the Siger himself had various ideas and plans connected with the forthcoming party at George Lomax's, which he had no intention of revealing to, say, Bundle. And Bundle herself had a fully fledged plan which she proposed to put into immediate execution, and which she had said nothing whatever about. On leaving Jimmy the Siger's rooms, she drove to Scotland Yard, where she asked to see Superintendent Battle. Superintendent Battle was rather a big man. He worked almost entirely on cases of a delicate political nature. On such a case, he had come to Chimneys 4 years ago, and Bundle was frankly trading on his remembering this fact. After a short delay, she was taken along several corridors and into the superintendent's private room. Battle was a stolid-looking man with a wooden face. He looked supremely unintelligent and more like a commissionaire than a detective. He was standing by the window when she entered, gazing in an expressionless manner at some sparrows. "Good afternoon, Lady Eileen," he said. "Sit down, won't you?" "Thank you," said Bundle. "I was afraid you mightn't remember me." "Always remember people," said Battle. He added, "Got to in my job." "Oh," said Bundle, rather damped. "And what can I do for you?" inquired the superintendent. Bundle came straight to the point. "I've always heard that you people at Scotland Yard have lists of all secret societies and things like that are formed in London." "We try to keep up to date," said Superintendent Battle cautiously. "I suppose a great many of them aren't really dangerous." "We've got a very good rule to go by," said Battle. "The more they talk, the less they'll do. You'd be surprised how well that works out. And I've heard that very often you let them go on." Battle nodded. "That's so. Why shouldn't a man call himself a brother of liberty and meet twice a week in a cellar and talk about rivers of blood? It won't hurt either him or us. And if there is trouble any time, we know where to lay our hands on him." "But sometimes, I suppose," said Bundle slowly, "a society may be more dangerous than anyone imagines." "Very unlikely," said Battle. "But it might happen," persisted Bundle. "Oh, it might," admitted the superintendent. There was a moment or two's silence. Then Bundle said quietly, "Superintendent Battle, could you give me a list of secret societies that have their headquarters in 7 Dials?" It was Superintendent Battle's boast that he had never been seen to display emotion, but Bundle could have sworn that just for a moment his eyelids flickered and he looked taken aback. Only for a moment, however. He was his usual wooden self as he said, "Strictly speaking, Lady Eileen, there's no such place as 7 Dials nowadays." No, most of it is pulled down and rebuilt. It was rather a low quarter once, but it's very respectable and high class nowadays. Not at all a romantic spot to poke about in for mysterious secret societies." "Oh," said Bundle, rather nonplussed. "But all the same, I should very much like to know what put that neighborhood into your head, Lady Eileen." "Have I got to tell you?" "Well, it saves trouble, doesn't it? We know where we are, so to speak." Bundle hesitated for a minute. "There was a man shot yesterday," she said slowly. "I thought I had run over him." Mr. Ronald Devereux. You know about it, of course. Why has there been nothing in the papers? Do you really want to know that, Lady Eileen? Yes, please. Well, we just thought. We should like to have a clear 24 hours, see. It will be in the papers tomorrow. Oh, Bundle studied him, puzzled. What was hidden behind that immovable face? Did he regard the shooting of Ronald Devereux as an ordinary crime or as an extraordinary one? He mentioned 7 dials when he was dying, said Bundle slowly. Thank you, said Battle. I'll make a note of that. He wrote a few words on the blotting pad in front of him. Bundle started on another tack. Mr. Lomax, I understand, came to see you yesterday about a threatening letter he had had. He did, and that was written from 7 dials. It had 7 dials written at the top of it, I believe. Bundle felt as though she was battering hopelessly on a locked door. If you'll let me advise you, Lady Eileen. I know what you're going to say. I should go home and, well, think no more about these matters. Leave it to you, in fact. Well, said Superintendent Battle, after all, we are the professionals. And I'm only an amateur. Yes, but you forget one thing. I mayn't have your knowledge and skill, but I have one advantage over you. I can work in the dark. She thought that the superintendent seemed a little taken aback, as though the force of her words struck home. Of course, said Bundle, if you won't give me a list of secret societies. Oh, I never said that. You shall have a list of the whole lot. He went to the door, put his head through and called out something, then came back to his chair. Bundle, rather unreasonably, felt baffled. The ease with which he acceded to her request seemed to her suspicious. He was looking at her now in a placid fashion. Do you remember the death of Mr. Gerald Wade? She asked abruptly. Down at your place, wasn't it? Took an overdraft of sleeping mixture. His sister says he never took things to make him sleep. Ah, said the superintendent, you'd be surprised what a lot of things there are. That sisters don't know. Bundle again felt baffled. She sat in silence till a man came in with a typewritten sheet of paper, which he handed to the superintendent. Here you are, said the latter when the other had left the room. The Blood Brothers of St. Sebastian, the Wolf Hounds, the Comrades of Peace, the Comrades Club, the Friends of Oppression, the Children of Moscow, the Red Standard Bearers, the Herrings, the Comrades of the Fallen, and half a dozen more. He handed it to her with a distinct twinkle in his eye. You give it to me, said Bundle, because you know it's not going to be the slightest use to me. Do you want me to leave the whole thing alone? I should prefer it, said Battle. You see, if you go messing round all these places, well, it's going to give us a lot of trouble. Looking after me, you mean? Looking after you, Lady Eileen. Bundle had risen to her feet. Now she stood undecided. So far the honors lay with Superintendent Battle. Then she remembered one slight incident, and she based a last appeal upon it. I said just now that an amateur could do some things which a professional couldn't. You didn't contradict me. That's because you're an honest man, Superintendent Battle. You knew I was right. Go on, said Battle quietly. At Chimneys you let me help. Won't you let me help now? Battle seemed to be turning the thing over in his mind. Emboldened by his silence, Bundle continued. You know pretty well what I'm like, Superintendent Battle. I butt into things. I'm a nosy Parker. I don't want to get in your way or to try and do things that you're doing and can do a great deal better. But if there's a chance for an amateur, let me have it. Again there was a pause, and then Superintendent Battle said quietly, You couldn't have spoken fairer than you have done, Lady Eileen, but I'm just going to say this to you. What you propose is dangerous. And when I say dangerous, I mean dangerous. I've grasped. That, said Bundle, I'm not a fool. No, said Superintendent Battle. Never knew a young lady who was less so. What I'll do for you, Lady Eileen, is this. I'll just give you one little hint. And I'm doing it because I never have thought much of the motto, safety first. In my opinion, half the people who spend their lives avoiding being run over by buses had much better be run over and put safely out of the way. They're no good. This remarkable utterance issuing from the conventional lips of Superintendent Battle quite took Bundle's breath away. What was the hint you were going to give me? She asked at last. You know Mr. Eversley, don't you? No, Bill. Why, of course, but what? I think Mr. Bill Eversley will be able to tell you all you want to know about 7 Dials. Bill knows about it, Bill. I didn't say that, not at all, but I think, being a quick-witted young lady, you'll get what you want from him. And now, said Superintendent Battle firmly, I'm not going to say another word. Chapter 11. Dinner with Bill. Bundle set out to keep her appointment with Bill on the following evening full of expectation. Bill greeted her with every sign of elation. Bill really is rather nice, thought Bundle to herself. Just like a large, clumsy dog that wags its tail when it's pleased to see you. The large dog was uttering short staccato yelps of comment and information. You look tremendously fit, Bundle. I can't tell you how pleased I am to see you. I've ordered oysters. You do like oysters, don't you? And how's everything? What did you want to go moldering about abroad so long? Were you having a very gay time? No, deadly, said Bundle. Perfectly foul. Old, diseased colonels creeping about in the sun, and active, wizened spinsters running libraries and churches. Give me England, said Bill. I bar this foreign business except Switzerland. Switzerland's all right. I'm thinking of going this Christmas. Why? Don't you come along? I'll think of it, said Bundle. What have you been doing with yourself lately, Bill? It was an incautious query. Bundle had merely made it out of politeness and as a preliminary to introducing her own topics of conversation. It was, however, the opening for which Bill had been waiting. That's just what I've been wanting to tell you about. You're brainy, Bundle, and I want your advice. You know that musical show, Damn Your Eyes? Yes. Well, I'm going to tell you about one of the dirtiest pieces of work imaginable. My God, the theatrical crowd. There's a girl-a Yankee, girl-a perfect stunner. Bundle's heart sank. The grievances of Bill's lady friends were always interminable. They went on, and there was no stemming them. This girl Babe sent, more her name is. I wonder how she got that name, said Bundle sarcastically. Bill replied literally. She got it out of Who's Who, opened it and jabbed her finger down on a page without looking. Pretty nifty, eh? Her real name's Goldschmidt or Abrameyer something quite impossible. Oh, quite, agreed Bundle. Well, Babe sent, Moore is pretty smart, and she's got muscles. She was one of the 8 girls who made the living bridge. Bill, said Bundle desperately, I went to see Jimmy the Siger yesterday morning. Good old Jimmy, said Bill. Well, as I was telling you, Babe's pretty smart. You've got to be nowadays. She can put it over on most theatrical people. If you want to live, be high-handed, that's what Babe says. And mind you, she's the goods all right. She can act. It's marvelous how that girl can act. She'd not much chance in Damn Your Eyes, just swamped in a pack of good-looking girls. I said, why not try the legitimate stage, you know, Mrs. Tanqueray, that sort of stuff, but Babe just laughed. Have you seen Jimmy at all? Saw him this morning. Let me see, where was I? Oh yes, I hadn't got to the rumpus yet, and mind you it was. Jealousy, sheer, spiteful jealousy. The other girl wasn't a patch on Babe for looks, and she knew it, so she went behind her back. Bundle resigned herself to the inevitable and heard the whole story of the unfortunate circumstances which had led up to Babeson Moore's summary disappearance from the cast of Damn Your Eyes. It took a long time. When Bill finally paused for breath and sympathy, Bundle said, "You're quite right, Bill. It's a rotten shame. There must be a lot of jealousy about. The whole theatrical world's rotten with it." "It must be. Did Jimmy say anything to you about coming down to the Abbey next week?" For the first time, Bill gave his attention to what Bundle was saying. He was full of a long rigmarole he wanted me to stuff Cotters with, about wanting to stand in the conservative interest. But you know, Bundle, it's too damned risky. "Stuff," said Bundle. "If George does find him out, he won't blame you. You'll just have been taken in, that's all." "That's not it at all," said Bill. "I mean it's too damned risky for Jimmy. Before he knows where he is, he'll be parked down somewhere like Tooting West, pledged to kiss babies and make speeches. You don't know how thorough Cotters is and how frightfully energetic." "Well, we'll have to risk that," said Bundle. "Jimmy can take care of himself all right." "You don't know Cotters," repeated Bill. "Who's coming to this party, Bill? Is it anything very special?" "Only the usual sort of muck. Mrs. Macata for one." "The MP?" "Yes, you know, always going off the deep end about welfare and pure milk and save the children. Think of poor Jimmy being talked to by her." "Never mind Jimmy, go on telling me." "Then there's a Hungarian, what they call a young Hungarian, Countess something unpronounceable. She's all right." He swallowed as though embarrassed, and Bundle observed that he was crumbling his bread nervously. "Young and beautiful?" she inquired delicately. "Oh, rather. I didn't know George went in for female beauty much." "Oh, he doesn't. She runs baby feeding in Budapest, something like that. Naturally, she and Mrs. Macata want to get together." "Who else?" "Sir Stanley Digby." "The Air Minister?" "Yes, and his secretary, Terence O'Rourke. He's rather a lad by the way, or used to be in his flying days. Then there's a perfectly poisonous German chap called Herr Eberhard. I don't know who he is, but we're all making the hell of a fuss about him. I've been twice told off to take him out to lunch, and I can tell you, Bundle, it was no joke. He's not like the embassy chaps, who are all very decent. This man sucks in soup and eats peas with a knife. Not only that, but the brute is always biting, his fingernails positively gnaws at them. Pretty foul, isn't it? I believe he invents things something of the kind. Well, that's all. Oh, yes, Sir Oswald Coote." "And Lady Coote?" "Yes, I believe she's coming too." Bundle sat lost in thought for some minutes. Bill's list was suggestive, but she hadn't time to think out various possibilities just now. She must get on to the next point. "Bill," she said, "what's all this about 7 Dials?" Bill at once looked horribly embarrassed. He blinked and avoided her glance. "I don't know what you mean," he said. "Nonsense," said Bundle. "I was told you know all about it." "About what?" This was rather a poser. Bundle shifted her ground. "I don't see what you want to be so secretive for," she complained. "Nothing to be secretive about. Nobody goes there much now. It was only a craze." This sounded puzzling. "One gets so out of things when one is away," said Bundle in a sad voice. "Oh, you haven't missed much," said Bill. "Everyone went there just to say they had been. It was boring really, and my God, you can get tired of fried fish. Where did everyone go? To the Seven Dials Club, of course, said Bill, staring. Wasn't that what you were asking about? I didn't know it by that name, said Bundle. Used to be a slummy sort of district round about Tottenham Court Road way. It's all pulled down and cleaned up now. But the Seven Dials Club keeps to the old atmosphere. Fried fish and chips, general squalor. Kind of East End stunt, but awfully handy to get at after a show. It's a nightclub, I suppose, said Bundle. Dancing and all that. That's it, awfully mixed crowd. Not a posh affair. Artists, you know, and all sorts of odd women and a sprinkling of our lot. They say quite a lot of things, but I think that that's all bunkum myself, just said to make the place go. Good, said Bundle. We'll go there tonight. Oh, I shouldn't do that, said Bill. His embarrassment had returned. I tell you it's played out. Nobody goes there now. Well, we're going. You wouldn't care for it, Bundle. You wouldn't really. You're going to take me to the Seven Dials Club and nowhere else, Bill. And I should like to know why you are so unwilling. Unwilling. Painfully so. What's the guilty secret? Guilty secret. Don't keep repeating what I say. You do it to give yourself time. I don't, said Bill indignantly. It's only. Well, I know there's something. You never can conceal anything. I've got nothing to conceal. It's only. Well, it's a long story, you see. I took Babeson. More there one night. Oh, Babeson, more again. Why not? I didn't know it was about her, said Bundle, stifling a yawn. As I say, I took Babe there. She rather fancied a lobster. I had a lobster under my arm. The story went on when the lobster had been finally dismembered in a struggle between Bill and a fellow who was a rank outsider. Bundle brought her attention back to him. I see, she said, and there was a row. Yes, but it was my lobster. I'd bought it and paid for it. I had a perfect right. Oh, you had, said Bundle hastily. But I'm sure that's all forgotten now, and I don't care for lobsters anyway, so let's go. We may be raided by the police. There's a room upstairs where they play baccarat. Father will have to come out and bail me out, that's all. Come on, Bill. Bill still seemed rather reluctant, but Bundle was adamant, and they were soon speeding to their destination in a taxi. The place, when they got to it, was much as she imagined it would be. It was a tall house in a narrow street, 14 Hunstanton Street. She noted the number. A man whose face was strangely familiar opened the door. She thought he started slightly when he saw her, but he greeted Bill with respectful recognition. He was a tall man with fair hair, a rather weak, anemic face and slightly shifty eyes. Bundle puzzled to herself where she could have seen him before. Bill had recovered his equilibrium now and quite enjoyed doing showman. They danced in the cellar, which was very full of smoke, so much so that you saw everyone through a blue haze. The smell of fried fish was almost overpowering. On the wall were rough charcoal sketches, some of them executed with real talent. The company was extremely mixed. There were portly foreigners, opulent Jewesses, a sprinkling of the really smart, and several ladies belonging to the oldest profession in the world. Soon Bill led Bundle upstairs. There the weak-faced man was on guard, watching all those admitted to the gambling room with a lynx eye. Suddenly recognition came to Bundle. Of course, she said. How stupid of me. It's Alfred, who used to be second footman at Chimneys. How are you, Alfred? Nicely, thank you, your ladyship. When did you leave Chimneys, Alfred? Was it long before we got back? It was about a month ago, lady. I got a chance of bettering myself, and it seemed a pity not to take it. I suppose they pay you very well here, remarked Bundle. Very fair, lady. Bundle passed in. It seemed to her that in this room, the real life of the club was exposed. The stakes were high, she saw that at once, and the people gathered round the two tables were of the true type hawk-eyed, haggard, with the gambling fever in their blood. She and Bill stayed there for about half an hour. Then Bill grew restive. Let's get out of this place, Bundle, and go on dancing. Bundle agreed. There was nothing to be seen here. They went down again. They danced for another half hour, had fish and chips, and then Bundle declared herself ready to go home. But it's so early, Bill protested. No, it isn't. Not really. And anyway, I've got a long day in front of me tomorrow. What are you going to do? That depends, said Bundle mysteriously. But I can tell you this, Bill, the grass is not going to grow under my feet. It never does, said Mr. Eversley. Chapter 12. Inquiries at Chimneys. Bundle's temperament was certainly not inherited from her father, whose prevailing characteristic was a wholly amiable inertia. As Bill Eversley had very justly remarked, the grass never did grow under Bundle's feet. On the morning following her dinner with Bill, Bundle woke full of energy. She had 3 distinct plans which she meant to put into operation that day, and she realized that she was going to be slightly hampered by the limits of time and space. Fortunately, she did not suffer from the affliction of Jerry Wade, Ronnie Devereux, and Jimmy the Siger that of not being able to get up in the morning. Sir Oswald Coote himself would have had no fault to find with her on the score of early rising. At 8:30 Bundle had breakfasted and was on her way to Chimneys in the Hispano. Her father seemed mildly pleased to see her. I never know when you're going to turn up, he said, but this will save me ringing up, which I hate. Colonel Melrose was here yesterday about the inquest. Colonel Melrose was chief constable of the county and an old friend of Lord Caterham. You mean the inquest on Ronnie Devereux. When is it to be? Tomorrow, 12 o'clock. Melrose will call for you. Having found the body, you'll have to give evidence, but he said you needn't be at all alarmed. Why on earth should I be alarmed? Well, you know, said Lord Caterham apologetically, Melrose is a bit old-fashioned. 12 o'clock, said Bundle. Good, I shall be here if I'm still alive. Have you any reason to anticipate not being alive? One never knows, said Bundle. The strain of modern life, as the newspapers say. Which reminds me that George Lomax asked me to come over to the Abbey next week. I refused, of course. Quite right, said Bundle. We don't want you mixed up in any funny business. Is there going to be any funny business? Asked Lord Caterham with a sudden awakening of interest. Well-warning letters and all that, you know, said Bundle. Perhaps George is going to be assassinated, said Lord Caterham hopefully. What do you think, Bundle? Perhaps I'd better go after all. You curb your bloodthirsty instincts and stay quietly at home, said Bundle. I'm going to talk to Mrs. Howell. Mrs. Howell was the housekeeper, that dignified, creaking lady who had struck such terror to the heart of Lady Coote. She had no terrors for Bundle, whom, indeed, she always called Miss Bundle, a relic of the days when Bundle had stayed at Chimneys, a long-legged, impish child, before her father had succeeded to the title. Now, Howley, said Bundle, let's have a cup of rich cocoa together, and let me hear all the household news. She gleaned what she wanted without much difficulty, making mental notes as follows. 2 new scullery maids village girls doesn't seem much there. New third housemaid head housemaid's niece. That sounds all right. Howley seems to have bullied poor Lady Coot a good deal. She would. I never thought the day would come when I should see chimneys inhabited by strangers, miss. Bundle. Oh, one must go with the times, said Bundle. You'll be lucky, Howley, if you never see it converted into desirable flats with use of superb pleasure grounds. Mrs. Howell shivered all down her reactionary, aristocratic spine. I've never seen Sir Oswald Coot, remarked Bundle. Sir Oswald is no doubt a very clever gentleman, said Mrs. Howell distantly. Bundle gathered that Sir Oswald had not been liked by his staff. Of course it was Mr. Bateman who saw to everything, continued the housekeeper. A very efficient gentleman indeed, and one who knew the way things ought to be done. Bundle led the talk on to the topic of Gerald Wade's death. Mrs. Howell was only too willing to talk about it, and was full of pitying ejaculations about the poor young gentleman, but Bundle gleaned nothing new. Presently she took leave of Mrs. Howell and came downstairs again, where she promptly rang for Treadwell. Treadwell, when did Alfred leave? It would be about a month ago now, my lady. Why did he leave? It was by his own wish, my lady. I believe he has gone to London. I was not dissatisfied with him in any way. I think you will find the new footman, John, very satisfactory. He seems to know his work and to be most anxious to give satisfaction. Where did he come from? He had excellent references, my lady. He had lived last with Lord Mount Vernon. I see, said Bundle thoughtfully. She was remembering that Lord Mount Vernon was at present on a shooting trip in East Africa. What's his last name, Treadwell? Bower, my lady. Treadwell paused for a minute or two, and then, seeing that Bundle had finished, he quietly left the room. Bundle remained lost in thought. John had opened the door to her on her arrival that day, and she had taken particular notice of him without seeming to do so. Apparently, he was the perfect servant, well trained, with an expressionless face. He had perhaps a more soldierly bearing than most footmen, and there was something a little odd about the shape of the back of his head. But these details, as Bundle realized, were hardly relevant to the situation. She sat frowning down at the blotting paper in front of her. She had a pencil in her hand and was idly tracing the name Bower over and over again. Suddenly an idea struck her and she stopped dead, staring at the word. Then she summoned Treadwell once more. Treadwell, how is the name Bower spelt? B-A-U-E-R, my lady. That's not an English name. I believe he is of Swiss extraction, my lady. Oh, that's all, Treadwell, thank you. Swiss extraction. No, German. That martial carriage, that flat back to the head. And he had come to Chimneys a fortnight before Jerry Wade's death. Bundle rose to her feet. She had done all she could hear. Now to get on with things. She went in search of her father. I'm off again, she said. I've got to go and see Aunt Marcia. Got to see Marcia. Lord Caterham's voice was full of astonishment. Poor child, how did you get let in for that? Just for once, said Bundle. I happen to be going of my own free will. Lord Caterham looked at her in amazement. That anyone could have a genuine desire to face his redoubtable sister-in-law was quite incomprehensible to him. Marcia, Marchioness of Caterham, the widow of his late brother Henry, was a very prominent personality. Lord Caterham admitted that she had made Henry an admirable wife, and that, but for her in all probability he would never have held the office of Secretary of State for Foreign Affairs. On the other hand, He had always looked upon Henry's early death as a merciful release. It seemed to him that Bundle was foolishly putting her head into the lion's mouth. "Oh, I say," he said, "you know I shouldn't do that. You don't know what it may lead to." "I know what I hope it's going to lead to," said Bundle. "I'm all right, Father, don't you worry about me." Lord Caterham sighed and settled himself more comfortably in his chair. He went back to his perusal of the field, but in a minute or two Bundle suddenly put her head in again. "Sorry," she said, "but there's one other thing I wanted to ask you. What is Sir Oswald Coote?" "I told you a steamroller." "I don't mean your personal impression of him. How did he make his money trouser buttons or brass beds or what?" "Oh, I see. He's steel and iron. He's got the biggest steelworks or whatever you call it in England. He doesn't, of course, run the show personally now. It's a company or companies. He got me in as a director of something or other. Very good business for me, nothing to do except go down to the city once or twice a year to one of those hotel places, Cannon Street or Liverpool Streetan, sit round a table where they have very nice new blotting paper. Then Coote or some clever Johnny makes a speech simply bristling with figures. But fortunately you needn't listen to it, and I can tell you, you often get a jolly good lunch out of it." Uninterested in Lord Caterham's lunches, Bundle had departed again before he had finished speaking. On the way back to London, she tried to piece together things to her satisfaction. As far as she could see, steel and infant welfare did not go together. One of the two, then, was just padding, presumably the latter. Mrs. Macata and the Hungarian Countess could be ruled out of court. They were camouflage. No, the pivot of the whole thing seemed to be the unattractive Herr Eberhard. He did not seem to be the type of man whom George Lomax would normally invite. Bill had said vaguely that he invented. Then there was the Air Minister and Sir Oswald Coote, who was steel. Somehow that seemed to hang together. Since it was useless speculating further, Bundle abandoned the attempt and concentrated on her forthcoming interview with Lady Caterham. The lady lived in a large gloomy house in one of London's higher class squares. Inside it smelt of sealing wax, bird seed, and slightly decayed flowers. Lady Caterham was a large woman, large in every way. Her proportions were majestic rather than ample. She had a large beaked nose, wore gold-rimmed pince-nez, and her upper lip bore just the faintest suspicion of a mustache. She was somewhat surprised to see her niece, but accorded her a frigid cheek, which Bundle duly kissed. "This is quite an unexpected pleasure, Eileen," she observed coldly. "We've only just got back, Aunt Marcia." "I know. How is your father?" "Much as usual." Her tone conveyed disparagement. She had a poor opinion of Alastair Edward Brent, 9th Marquis of Caterham. She would have called him, had she known the term, a poor fish. "Father is very well. He's down at Chimneys." "Indeed. You know, Eileen, I never approved of the letting of Chimneys. The place is, in many ways, a historical monument. It should not be cheapened." "It must have been wonderful in Uncle Henry's day," said Bundle with a slight sigh. "Henry realized his responsibilities," said Henry's widow. "Think of the people who stayed there," went on Bundle ecstatically. "All the principal statesmen of Europe." Lady Caterham sighed. "I can truly say that history has been made there more than once," she observed. "If only your father—" She shook her head sadly. "Politics bore father," said Bundle, "and yet they are about the most fascinating study there is, I should say, especially if one knew about them from the inside." She made this extravagantly untruthful statement of her feelings without even a blush. Her aunt looked at her with some surprise. "I am pleased to hear you say so," she said. I always imagined, Eileen, that you cared for nothing but this modern pursuit of pleasure." "I used to," said Bundle. "It is true that you are still very young," said Lady Caterham thoughtfully. "But with your advantages, and if you were to marry suitably, you might be one of the leading political hostesses of the day." Bundle felt slightly alarmed. For a moment she feared that her aunt might produce a suitable husband straight away. "But I feel such a fool," said Bundle. "I mean, I know so little." "That can easily be remedied," said Lady Caterham briskly. "I have any amount of literature I can lend you." "Thank you, Aunt Marcia," said Bundle, and proceeded hastily to her second line of attack. "I wondered if you knew Mrs. Mackata, Aunt Marcia." "Certainly I know her, a most estimable woman with a brilliant brain. I may say that as a general rule I do not hold with women standing for Parliament. They can make their influence felt in a more womanly fashion." She paused, doubtless to recall the womanly way in which she had forced a reluctant husband into the political arena and the marvelous success which had crowned his and her efforts. But still, times change. And the work Mrs. Mackata is doing is of truly national importance and of the utmost value to all women. It is, I think I may say, true womanly work. You must certainly meet Mrs. Mackata." Bundle gave a rather dismal sigh. "She's going to be at a house party at George Lomax's next week. He asked Father, who, of course, won't go, but he never thought of asking me. Thinks I'm too much of an idiot, I suppose." It occurred to Lady Caterham that her niece was really wonderfully improved. Had she, perhaps, had an unfortunate love affair? An unfortunate love affair, in Lady Caterham's opinion, was often highly beneficial to young girls. It made them take life seriously. "I don't suppose George Lomax realizes for a moment that you have, shall we say, grown up. Eileen dear," she said, "I must have a few words with him." "He doesn't like me," said Bundle. "I know he won't ask me." "Nonsense," said Lady Caterham. "I shall make a point of it. I knew George Lomax when he was so high." She indicated a quite impossible height. "He will be only too pleased to do me a favor, and he will be sure to see for himself that it is vitally important that the present-day young girls of our own class should take an intelligent interest in the welfare of their country." Bundle nearly said, "Hear, hear," but checked herself. "I will find you some literature now," said Lady Caterham, rising. She called in a piercing voice, "Miss Connor." A very neat secretary with a frightened expression came running. Lady Caterham gave her various directions. Presently, Bundle was driving back to Brook Street with an armful of the driest-looking literature imaginable. Her next proceeding was to ring up Jimmy the Siger. His first words were full of triumph. "I've managed it," he said. "Had a lot of trouble with Bill, though. He'd got it into his thick head that I should be a lamb among the wolves, but I made him see sense at last. I've got a lot of thingamabobs now, and I'm studying them. You know, blue books and white papers. Deadly dull, but one must do the thing properly. Have you ever heard of the Santa Fe boundary dispute?" "Never," said Bundle. "Well, I'm taking special pains with that. It went on for years and was very complicated. I'm making it my subject. Nowadays one has to specialize." "I've got a lot of the same sort of things," said Bundle. "Aunt Marcia gave them to me." "Aunt who?" "Aunt Marcia, Father's sister-in-law. She's very political. In fact, she's going to get me invited to George's party." "No? Oh, I say, that will be splendid." There was a pause, and then Jimmy said, "I say, I don't think we'd better tell Loring that, eh?" "Perhaps not. You see, she mayn't like being out of it, and she really must be kept out of it." "Yes." I mean, you can't let a girl like that run into danger. Bundle reflected that Mr. the Siger was slightly deficient in tact. The prospect of her running into danger did not seem to give him any qualms whatever. "Have you gone away?" asked Jimmy. "No, I was only thinking." "I see. I say, are you going to the inquest tomorrow?" "Yes, are you?" "Yes, by the way, it's in the evening papers, but tucked away in a corner. Funny, I should have thought they'd have made rather a splash about it." "Yes, so should I." "Well," said Jimmy, "I must be getting on with my task. I've just got to where Bolivia sent us a note." "I suppose I must get on with my little lot," said Bundle. "Are you going to swat at it all the evening?" "I think so, are you?" "Oh, probably. Good night." They were both liars of the most unblushing order. Jimmy the Siger knew perfectly well that he was taking Lauren Wade out to dinner. As for Bundle, no sooner had she rung off than she attired herself in various nondescript garments belonging, as a matter of fact, to her maid, and having donned them, she sallied out on foot, deliberating whether bus or tube would be the best route by which to reach the Seven Dials Club. Chapter 13. The Seven Dials Club. Bundle reached 14 Hunstanton Street about 6 p.m. At that hour. As she rightly judged, the Seven Dials Club was a dead spot. Bundle's aim was a simple one. She intended to get hold of the ex-footman Alfred. She was convinced that once she had got hold of him, the rest would be easy. Bundle had a simple autocratic method of dealing with retainers. It seldom failed, and she saw no reason why it should fail now. The only thing of which she was not certain was how many people inhabited the club premises. Naturally, she wished to disclose her presence to as few people as possible. While she was hesitating as to her best line of attack, the problem was solved for her in a singularly easy fashion. The door of number 14 opened, and Alfred himself came out. "Good afternoon, Alfred," said Bundle pleasantly. Alfred jumped. "Oh, good afternoon, your ladyship. I didn't recognize your ladyship just for a moment." Paying a tribute in her own mind to her maid's clothing, Bundle proceeded to business. "I want a few words with you, Alfred. Where shall we go?" "Well, really, my lady, I don't know. It's not what you might call a nice part round here. I don't know, I'm sure." Bundle cut him short. "Who's in the club?" "No one at present, my lady." "Then we'll go in there." Alfred produced a key and opened the door. Bundle passed in. Alfred, troubled and sheepish, followed her. Bundle sat down and looked straight at the uncomfortable Alfred. "I suppose you know," she said crisply, "that what you're doing here is dead against the law." Alfred shifted uncomfortably from one foot to the other. "It's true, as we've been raided twice," he admitted, "but nothing compromising was found, owing to the neatness of Mr. Moskorovsky's arrangements." "I'm not talking of the gambling only," said Bundle. "There's more than that, probably a great deal more than you know. I'm going to ask you a direct question, Alfred, and I should like the truth, please. How much were you paid for leaving Chimneys?" Alfred looked twice round the cornice as though seeking for inspirations, swallowed 3 or 4 times, and then took the inevitable course of a weak will opposed to a strong one. "It was this way, your ladyship. Mr. Moskorovsky, he come with a party to visit Chimneys on one of the show days. Mr. Treadwell, he was indisposed like an ingrowing toenail. As a matter of fact, so it fell to me to show the parties over. At the end of the tour, Mr. Moskorovsky, he stays behind the rest, and after giving me something handsome, he falls into conversation." "Yes," said Bundle encouragingly. "And the long and the short of it was, said Alfred, with a sudden acceleration of his narrative, "that he offers me £100 down to leave that instant minute and to look after this here club. He wanted someone as was used to the best families to give the place a tone, as he put it. And well, it seemed flying in the face of Providence to refuse, let alone that the wages I get here are just 3 times what they were as second footmen." £100, said Bundle. "That's a very large sum, Alfred. Did they say anything about who was to fill your place at Chimneys?" "I demurred a bit, my lady, about leaving at once. As I pointed out, it wasn't usual and might cause inconvenience. But Mr. Moskorovsky, he knew of a young chap in good service and ready to come any minute. So I mentioned his name to Mr. Treadwell, and everything was settled pleasant-like." Bundle nodded. Her own suspicions had been correct, and the modus operandi was much as she had thought it to be. She essayed a further inquiry. "Who is Mr. Moskorovsky?" "Gentleman as runs this club. Russian gentleman. A very clever gentleman, too." Bundle abandoned the getting of information for the moment and proceeded to other matters. £100 is a very large sum of money, Alfred." "Larger than I ever handled, my lady," said Alfred with simple candor. "Did you never suspect that there was something wrong?" "Wrong, my lady?" "Yes, I'm not talking about the gambling. I mean something far more serious. You don't want to be sent to penal servitude, do you, Alfred?" "Oh Lord, my lady, you don't mean it." "I was at Scotland Yard the day before yesterday," said Bundle impressively. "I heard some very curious things. I want you to help me, Alfred, and if you do, well, if things go wrong, I'll put in a good word for you." "Anything I can do, I shall be only too pleased, my lady. I mean, I would anyway." "Well, first," said Bundle, "I want to go all over this place from top to bottom." Accompanied by a mystified and scared Alfred, she made a very thorough tour of inspection. Nothing struck her eye till she came to the gaming room. There she noticed an inconspicuous door in a corner, and the door was locked. Alfred explained readily. "That's used as a getaway, your ladyship. There's a room and a door onto a staircase what comes out in the next street. That's the way the gentry goes when there's a raid. But don't the police know about it? It's a cunning door, you see, my lady. Looks like a cupboard, that's all." Bundle felt a rising excitement. "I must get in here," she said. Alfred shook his head. "You can't, my lady. Mr. Moskorovsky, he has the key." "Well," said Bundle, "there are other keys." She perceived that the lock was a perfectly ordinary one which probably could be easily unlocked by the key of one of the other doors. Alfred, rather troubled, was sent to collect likely specimens. The fourth that Bundle tried fitted. She turned it, opened the door, and passed through. She found herself in a small, dingy apartment. A long table occupied the center of the room with chairs ranged round it. There was no other furniture in the room. 2 built-in cupboards stood on either side of the fireplace. Alfred indicated the nearer one with a nod. "That's it," he explained. Bundle tried the cupboard door, but it was locked, and she saw at once that this lock was a very different affair. It was of the patent kind that would only yield to its own key. "Igly ingenious it is," explained Alfred. "It looks all right when opened. Shelves, you know, with a few ledgers and that on 'em. Nobody'd ever suspect, but you touch the right spot and the whole thing swings open." Bundle had turned round and was surveying the room thoughtfully. The first thing she noticed was that the door by which they had entered was carefully fitted round with baize. It must be completely soundproof. Then her eyes wandered to the chairs. There were 7 of them, three each side, and one rather more imposing in design at the head of the table. Bundle's eyes brightened. She had found what she was looking for. This, she felt sure, was the meeting place of the secret organization. The place was almost perfectly planned. It looked so innocent you could reach it just by stepping through from the gaming room, or you could arrive there by the secret entrance, and any secrecy, any precautions were easily explained by the gaming going on in the next room. Idly, as these thoughts passed through her mind, she drew a finger across the marble of the mantelpiece. Alfred saw and misinterpreted the action. "You won't find no dirt, not to speak of," he said. "Mr. Moskorovsky, he ordered the place to be swept out this morning, and I did it while he waited." "Oh," said Bundle, thinking very hard. "This morning, eh?" "Has to be done sometimes," said Alfred, "though the room's never what you might call used." Next minute he received a shock. "Alfred," said Bundle, "you've got to find me a place in this room where I can hide." Alfred looked at her in dismay. "But it's impossible, my lady. You'll get me into trouble and I'll lose my job." "You'll lose it anyway when you go to prison," said Bundle unkindly. "But as a matter of fact, you needn't worry. Nobody will know anything about it." "And there ain't no place," wailed Alfred. "Look round for yourself, your ladyship, if you don't believe me." Bundle was forced to admit that there was something in this argument, but she had the true spirit of one undertaking adventures. "Nonsense," she said with determination. "There has got to be a place." "But there ain't one," wailed Alfred. Never had a room shown itself more unpropitious for concealment. Dingy blinds were drawn down over the dirty window panes, and there were no curtains. The window sill outside, which Bundle examined, was about 4 inches wide. Inside the room there were the table, the chairs, and the cupboards. The second cupboard had a key in the lock. Bundle went across and pulled it open. Inside were shelves covered with an odd assortment of glasses and crockery. "Surplus stuff as we don't use," explained Alfred. "You can see for yourself, my lady, there's no place here as a cat could hide." But Bundle was examining the shelves. "Flimsy work," she said. "Now then, Alfred, have you got a cupboard downstairs where you could shove all this glass? You have? Good. Then get a tray and start to carry it down at once. Hurry, there's no time to lose." "You can't, my lady, and it's getting late too. The cooks will be here any minute now." "Mr. Mosk, what not doesn't come till later, I suppose?" "He's never here much before midnight, but oh, my lady." "Don't talk so much, Alfred," said Bundle. "Get that tray. If you stay here arguing, you will get into trouble." Doing what is familiarly known as wringing his hands, Alfred departed. Presently he returned with a tray, and having by now realized that his protests were useless, he worked with a nervous energy quite surprising. As Bundle had seen, the shelves were easily detachable. She took them down, ranged them upright against the wall, and then stepped in. She remarked, "pretty narrow. It's going to be a tight fit. Shut the door on me carefully, Alfred, that's right. Yes, it can be done. Now I want a gimlet." "A gimlet, my lady." "That's what I said." "I don't know." "Nonsense, you must have a gimlet. Perhaps you've got an auger as well. If you haven't got what I want, you'll have to go out and buy it, so you'd better try hard to find the right thing." Alfred departed and returned presently with quite a creditable assortment of tools. Bundle seized what she wanted and proceeded swiftly and efficiently to bore a small hole at the level of her right eye. She did this from the outside so that it should be less noticeable, and she dared not make it too large lest it should attract attention. "There, that'll do," she remarked at last. "Oh, but my lady, my lady." "Yes, but they'll find you if they should open the door." "They won't open the door," said Bundle, "because you are going to lock it and take the key away. And if by chance Mr. Mozgorovsky should ask for the key—" "Tell him it's lost," said Bundle briskly, "but nobody's going to worry about this cupboard. It's only here to attract attention from the other one and make a pair. Go on, Alfred. Someone might come at any time. Lock me in and take the key and come and let me out when everyone's gone." "You'll be taken bad, my lady. You'll faint." "I never faint," said Bundle, "but you might as well get me a cocktail. I shall certainly need it. Then lock the door of the room again. Don't forget and take all the door keys back to their proper doors. And Alfred, don't be too much of a rabbit. Remember, if anything goes wrong, I'll see you through." "And that's that," said Bundle to herself when, having served the cocktail, Alfred had finally departed. She was not nervous lest Alfred's nerve should fail and he should give her away. She knew that his sense of self-preservation was far too strong for that. His training alone helped him to conceal private emotions beneath the mask of the well-trained servant. Only one thing worried Bundle: the interpretation she had chosen to put upon the cleaning of the room that morning might be all wrong, and if so, Bundle sighed in the narrow confines of the cupboard. The prospect of spending long hours in it for nothing was not attractive.